What's up, everyone? It's Adam here. Welcome to the first episode of Chatting with Ciaccia. If you are going to be engaged and enjoying these conversations and you'd like to hear more of them, if you can please make sure you subscribe, like, and share. I think it's through genuine and transparent conversation about all things hairdressing that we could actually grow, and we all benefit from sharing conversations. My first guest, the inaugural guest for Chatting with Ciaccia today, is Jazzy Lupo. She's an amazing hairdresser from New Zealand. I had the pleasure of meeting her on one of my journeys to New Zealand earlier this month. She has a very accomplished career in hairdressing. She's also won the New Zealand Digital Influencer of the Year of 2024. Today, our conversation is going to be around digital versus analog, which all my conversations will be for this series of the podcast. Something that we have seen happening in our industry is the rise of digital influence and how that's impacted our industry. Let me introduce you to Jazzy.
Hello, everyone. I'm so
That was a bit
excited to be here. Thanks for having
that
me.
it's welcome. It's a bit awkward for me. This is the first podcast, and thank you so much for giving up your Monday evening. I know it's a little bit later there. It's only just past dinner time here in Australia, and it's a couple of hours difference in is it Tawa you're from?
Horiroa.
Pariroa. Okay. I don't know why. That's where the salon's from, right?
Oh, no, I work in Tawa,
Okay,
but I
you
live
work
in
in
Horiroa.
Tawa.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
right. Yep. That's why I said Tawa.
Yes.
So Jazzy, thank you so much for joining me. We had an interesting meet when we met in Wellington, windy Wellington. Firstly, I'd like to ask you just a couple of questions just to get people sort of a bit of an understanding about who you are and where you're from. If you could just basically introduce yourself, and then I'm going to go into some really brief questions and try and just build a context and a bit of a profile about who you are.
Yeah, sure. So obviously I'm Jazzy. I have been in the hairdressing industry since I was 16 and I'm coming on 30, so you can do the maths and how many years that is. Um, I am a sole trader, so I do rent a chair, and I have been doing that for about 2 years now. So I'm quite fresh to running my own business. So that's exciting that I get to have this opportunity. I the reason why I started hairdressing when I was so young is actually because I was a little bit of a naughty girl at school, and I didn't want to be at school. And my mum was either like, you're going to school, you're going to do something else. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do this random little Welltech course, and I ended up really enjoying it. And yeah, now here I am, like
So,
14 years later.
okay, so I'm sure it wasn't just because you were maybe a little bit distracted at school. What was it about hairdressing that drew you to the industry and for your choice in career? And how did you know at some point you must have been, as some young people are, I'm not really sure whether this was the right thing for me. What was it that signaled to you, Jazzy, you're on the right path here?
Yeah, so when I was actually really little, my sister, she is also a hairdresser. So I really looked up to her and I wanted to be like her. So that was like a little seed that was sown. And then when I did the course when I was a teenager, I really loved the creative aspect of hairdressing. I loved at the time I loved doing like hair ups and like kind of competition kind of work, and that was the direction that I thought that I wanted to go. Um, but later on down the track, I actually realized that I had a real passion for color. I love color. I love transforming people's hair colors from from X to Y, and yeah, just it's so much fun. It's like painting for me. So yeah. Oh
So you
yeah.
found you found your the particular aspects of what we do that you love the most and stuck to that. And from a quick glance on your Instagram page, it does really scream that to me. You can see your aesthetic there and that you're really passionate about those things. I know you've already mentioned the things that you mastered and the skills that you maybe were more proficient at. I know with myself, I took a liking to cutting hair I used to color hair all the time, and I just took a liking to that. But it was more about having to overcome certain aspects of our career. So, what was it um, that was the most challenging thing outside of maybe the things that you loved, and how did you
Yeah.
overcome that challenge to make sure that you could continue forward in your career?
Yeah, well, I started to realize like um, what makes a color look really good as well is the way that it's styled. And I had never mastered blow waving. I really struggled with blow waving. Um, when I the first salon that I worked at, we didn't have any blow wave training. So then when I moved on to my onto a different salon, um, I had already been established in hairdressing for a few years, and I had picked up bad habits from blow waving, using a paddle brush and not doing a round brush and stuff. So it took me a good few years to actually master the blow wave that I really like the aesthetic of. So and now like since like trying really hard to smooth out the hair, I feel that I'm really really good at blow waving like really thick, frizzy, curly hair, smoothing it out and just giving it that really glossy finish, which was always really hard for me. And I think it was also really important for me to do that because that's the kind of hair that I have. And that was a lot of clients that were coming in that had hair like me, but I didn't know how to do their hair, like style it.
Yeah, I think it's something that's making a resurgence back, blow drying, and it's maybe wasn't a necessity with the rise of um, the I don't want to mention brands, but thermal styling tools, electrical tools, and things like that. So it's interesting that you found a necessity and you had to overcome that challenge because it was something that your clients were going to ask of you, and obviously a big part of your day to day hairdressing. And I think that we actually sometimes forget the hairdressing, the dressing in hairdressing. Does that make sense? Sometimes
Yeah,
it's an overthought,
yeah,
and people sort of move on from, like you got to make sure that you dress the hair and finish it at the end. Sometimes it was a
mm,
bit of an afterthought for me too when I was young. So you've obviously paved yourself a great way and specialized in doing people of Polynesian descent with textured curly hair, which is
yeah,
amazing actually. So fast forward a couple of years because we really want to move towards the conversation that I've asked you to be here for. How do you stay inspired now and keep up to date with everything that's going on? Is it more about just making sure your skill set is tuned to deal with the clients who want to see you? Or do you find that you're having people coming to see you outside of that, and therefore you have to move your skills and keep up with the trends of, someone coming to you with dark, curly, textured hair, and all of a sudden they want it fine, blonde, and straight?
yeah. Um, I think over the last couple of years, especially since I have been establishing my own business, I have been I get inspiration from hairdressers that do similar work to me and getting tips and stuff from the tips and education online actually from other hairstylists that really inspire me in terms of like color and styling and stuff. Um, but I actually have like a lot of my clientele, they come in and they often are wanting a similar, like something similar to what I have been essentially like portraying on social media. So like
Okay.
I get lots of like balayage and lots of like brunettes, reds, coppers. I don't get many blondes. Yeah, that's just in terms of like coloring. But yeah, I that's how I get inspired is I have like a small amount of hairdressers that I'm like I love their work and I love the way that they do things and I just watch videos and stuff like that to keep inspired, and I try and go to at least an education class a year.
Yeah, it's good. I think that's one of the beautiful things about so much information available online. I mean, it's the reason I started my YouTube channel was just because I was, consuming content on YouTube and thought, maybe I should share what I do, and it seems to be the way that by collab, it's almost like a digital collaboration, I guess you could say, and by consuming people's content, it's great that that's allowed you to stay up to date on trends. It's very important because you obviously having a diverse like there's diversity with your work on your digital portfolio, and if we are, it's something we'll get into a little bit later. But if you're going to be putting work on your social media and then you can't deliver the client expectation when they come, that can leave you in somewhat an uncomfortable conversation. So
Yeah,
one thing before we move on from the hairdressing part, because clearly you're a very accomplished hairdresser, you've been doing it a long time. We need Jazzy to give us some advice that we can pass on to maybe your younger self or somebody who's a lot younger than you who might be following you on Instagram or might be
yeah,
thinking about becoming a hairdresser. Um, what advice would you give them if they're considering starting a career in hairdressing?
yeah. My advice would to um, learn like the fundamentals and learn them really well and get them in your brain. Um, and also um, like make sure like if there's like at the salon that you're working at, ask as many questions as you can, like why are you doing that color, why are you using that product, like ask as many questions because there's just so much to learn in the industry. And I would say like my one piece of advice that I probably wish that I followed when I was younger would be like work hard, work really, really hard because it will pay off in the long run. When it starts from washing hair, master even like a head massage because the whole experience at the end of the day is going to pay a big price in like the way that you are as a hairstylist. So every little thing counts.
I agree. I have a saying, Jazzy, it's really simple. The harder
Yeah.
you work, the luckier you get.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I
Yes.
think we forget that people actually come to us for that experience. The reason I've asked Jazzy to come here is because I presented a presentation in Wellington for the first time, and I thought that it may or may not hit very well. And the reason why is I've had some concerns for a while about the direction that the hairdressing industry is going in terms of digital saturation and the reliance and push towards sending hairdressers down a digital path as being the solution to building a robust, um, reliable clientele that has longevity. And I think that examples, there's many examples at the moment in the digital space with regards to our industry that shows us that it's actually not the case. And so I'm just going to revisit that presentation just slightly, Jazzy, so I can build a little bit of context for the people who are watching it, because obviously this presentation or this pod will build context for all the other ones. So I
Yeah.
opened
Cool.
my presentation by saying a couple of things, and I'll just get to the main part. And that was, I said to everyone, have you ever been into a restaurant, a beautiful restaurant, one that was recommended to you, and you had high expectations? The server came over, and as they would, they'll tell you about the menu, about the specials, and whoever you're there with, you decide on what you're going to eat, and you order your entrees, your mains, and your orders in. They come and bring you some wine, and the night's going great, and all of a sudden you can see that they're bringing the entrees towards your table, and you know it's yours. But just before they get to your table, have you ever seen somebody interrupt them and say, just before you give these people their entrees, can I take a photo of it first? I don't recall that ever happening to me. Another example have you ever been to a retail store and tried on a pair of clothes, jeans, whatever, a nice dress, and you've gone out from the change room, you've looked in the mirror, and the retail assistant has said, that looks great. And you go, yeah, I agree. I think I'm going to buy this. And he or she says, before you take it off, could I just take a photo of it for our social media? I don't think I've ever had that happen or seen that happen. I could be wrong. My question was to my the people who came to my course, or my presentation rather, because it wasn't a course. Why do hairdressers do it? And as I looked around the room, Jazzy as well, everyone's just like this. I don't know. I don't know why they do it. Because I came to the realization a long time ago that this was unique to our industry. And I never felt comfortable with it. But rather than being a boomer, as some people would say, a digital boomer, I'm actually not that old. I'm not old enough to be an official boomer, but a digital boomer, maybe. I did have MySpace, so that makes me quite old. Um, I took a step back and just observed from afar. And I thought, okay, well, I've never felt comfortable putting clients on my social media just because I never liked the fact that I would take their money and then say to them, do you mind if I take a photo of your hair now? That was somewhat odd to me. However, I saw an abundance of people, albeit younger than me, quite happy to do so. However, what I did realize is those people were starting to develop what I now call a digital clientele. And a digital clientele to me is I describe really, really simply. And that is, if I can just find it, because I don't want to paraphrase, I want to say it exactly so. A younger demographic generally, not always, but younger demographic, 18 to 25, financially less stable. Generally, these people shop around for price with that driving their decision to book or not. They're generally less liable, and this is all very general and I'm making that clear, it's very general. They're generally less reliable, frequently cancel last minute or just don't show up at all, and seldom do they ever rebook, even if they absolutely love their hair. I now see too many people relying on shout outs on their stories on DMs to try and find an appointment to fill their gaps in the week, trying to, uh, reinvigorate that clientele to get them to come back again. Whereas I was from the school is that you focused on the analog, as I called it in the salon. And as you've already mentioned, the scalp massage, the making sure their coffee's nice, recommending retail, focusing on them, making sure that they are the only person in the world when they're sitting in your chair, and then inviting them to have their hair done again. And I found that was a lot more successful. Now, that said, it could be purely an age demographic thing, may not be anything to do with digital. But one of the things that I have found is that there is so many things that can disrupt and interfere with your digital clientele or your digital assets versus your analog. We've seen changes in algorithms. We're seeing in some countries TikTok being banned. All these things are going to prevent people from being able to conduct their business in our industry, which I find really scary. So, my mission in these podcasts is to open up a conversation about digital versus analog and trying to find the right balance, as we discussed at my presentation in Wellington. So, Jazzy, one of the things that I want to do now is build some context with you and your social journey. So, I'm not going to bore everyone with my social journey because if they're watching this, they're well aware of what my social journey is. Some people who haven't seen me previous to that presentation may not have, which is why I did in the presentation. But before we go into what your journey ended up like and what I've seen happen, I want to know what inspired you to combine hairdressing and your amazing skills, because you can create meme videos on Instagram and TikTok and whatever, but yours clearly got people on your skill. I've watched them and they are amazing. So what inspired you or what drove you to combine your hairdressing skills with creating content on your platform, which you chose as TikTok? And how did that platform then go to reshape your career? Because from what I understand, you were already pretty busy and you had a pretty good clientele before that.
Yeah, well, actually, I didn't start on TikTok. I started on Instagram, um, and essentially, like, I so I was working for an employer, and I went on maternity leave. And while I was on maternity leave, the employer was like, "Hey, we're changing the restructure of our salon, and it's going to be rent a chair only. Um, so like, if you would like to, we'd love to have you still work here, but you would have to rent a chair, and it would be like your own business essentially." So I was like, "Oh my gosh, like okay, like I'm gonna try this. I've always wanted to run my own business." Um, so then, but there was about a week before, I mean, a month before my maternity leave ran out. So, like the pay. So I was like, I need to get clients because I didn't have clients at the time because I had moved from another salon, which was a bit further away. So I didn't have any clients. So essentially, what I did was I just spent like hours and hours trying to, I would say, like figure out how to grow clientele. So I would spend hours looking up ways and how I can grow my reach and reaching people like so they can see my videos. So I just was making videos and I was testing them, seeing what worked. I was posting every day. And then within about a couple of months, my Instagram started blowing up. And I had like maybe 2,000 followers, which was a lot for me. And then I actually had like a Gen Z client come in from Instagram that like she found me on Instagram and she said, you should start a TikTok. And I was like, oh, really? Like, what do I do? She said, you should just post the videos that you post on Instagram. So I was like, okay. So I just started posting those videos on TikTok and then they just started going viral. And then I started to learn about the algorithm on TikTok. Um, and within like a few weeks of posting on TikTok, like my videos were just blowing up.
What
And
was it more specifically, Jazzy? Sorry to interrupt. What was it
yeah,
more specifically that you're actually showing people on your social
yeah.
media?
So I actually got inspiration from lots of other hairdressers um that I followed. So they did like the reveals. So they would like do the consult and then at the end they would like take the show them what their hair looked like behind like the mirror. So what I did was I would like do the consult and then I would do their hair. And then during the last part of their service, they wouldn't look at their hair. So I would turn the chair around and I would style it and everything. And then I would put the camera up and then I would show them their hair and then they would just react because they hadn't seen the hair like from that. They would have seen the hair from what it was before and then from then. So yeah, so that was what really got people hooked. And I think also a big reason why my videos took off as well, I think, is because there was a wide range of people that were in the videos. So it wasn't essentially like just like young girls that were like models or whatever. I had people of like all ages, all ethnicities, different types of hair, and I think it was really cool to have like a Maori Pacifica um, clientele come in, and because then I started to gain momentum in that kind of clientele as well. Yeah,
That sounds amazing. I mean, um, would
I don't know if
you
I answered
agree
your
with
question.
me? You did. You absolutely did. Because like you came up basically what I took from that is you were basically sharing what you're doing in the salon and you chose to do a before and after, like a reveal.
Yeah.
Um, would you say you were sharing the analog part of what you did? Maybe you didn't realize
Um,
at the time. The
I think
non-digital aspect of what we do as hairdressers is what you were showing on a digital
yeah.
medium.
I the only analog part that I would show was the console. Um, and I think what the good thing about my consults and the videos is that I was just really honest. Like if someone's like, I want this, I'm like, I'm so sorry, but you can't get that today. You know, so like that was probably the only thing I didn't show um,
It's
you know,
super
like
important to do that.
coffees, like giving them a coffee or like giving them a treatment at the
Okay.
base. So I didn't show that kind of thing. Yeah.
So it was the consult that basically hooked people. That was like, and it's obviously a very important part, if not the most important part of what we do, because if we don't have that initial conversation and we don't extract the right information and we're not honest and transparent with people about what we can and can't do, then we're setting ourselves up for failure.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So at what point did it just blow up? And
Yeah,
then
so
what did you do
um
with it? How
so
did you
I
balance that with what you're doing in the salon? Because obviously you're building this audience. You said you wanted to do it because you are a contractor. You're working to rent a chair. You needed to then build this digital database or a client list.
yeah,
What
yeah.
happened from there? Take me to the next step.
Yeah, yeah. So, once my videos started going viral and I had like lots of people booking in, I started to get booked out probably like within like like a month in advance. And then like within like a few weeks, I was like people probably couldn't get an appointment for about 3 to 4 months. So, so what
That's
was
good. That's good.
yeah,
So
no,
it's
it
doing
was
what you
it was
intended.
amazing, but it was also really difficult because then I couldn't rebook my clients because I had no space for them. So, or like,
Mm,
because all of my clients, they were all new because I didn't have a clientele before. So they were all brand new. So I couldn't, it's not like I pre booked them anyway. So it would be their first time. They're like, okay, can I rebook? And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can't get you in until like 5 months or something crazy. Um,
well,
which was so unfortunate. And I have had lots of people not come back to me because they literally couldn't get an appointment. Um, which is a good problem, but then also like that sucks for them as well. Um, so when it, I remember when, so my videos started going viral on TikTok, and then I got an email from um, Radio New Zealand, and then they were like, "Hey, we want to have you on the radio," and I was like,
wow.
"What?" And
This is
then
blowing up.
I
This
was
is
like,
blowing up.
okay, yeah, I'm keen. Like I'll come. So then like they got me on the radio, and then literally like I don't even know what I talked about. I can't even remember. And then the next day I got a message from 7 days, which is like it's like a comedy show. And they like deliver the news in a comical way. So
Okay.
they messaged me and they were like, "Hey, we want to have you on our show," and I was like, "What?"
Wow.
So then I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm keen."
This is
So
superstar
then they,
status.
yeah. So this happened.
Radio, TV, boom.
Yeah. So then this happened like maybe like May last year. May last year. So it was all a very short amount of time, and
So
so
what
then
is the
I
time frame between this 25K video and the radio interview? What are we talking here?
probably like 3 months.
That's
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. That's not a slow burn at all. That's a boom. That's an explosion. I
Yes.
imagine that would be a lot to deal with too if you're not used to it.
Yes. And I think like everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, like you're amazing, like you've got everything together, blah blah blah." But like this was at the expense of like my life. Like I was spending hours a day doing videos when my daughter was asleep, and then like it was just not effective, and I was getting burnt. I in the long run, I was going to get burnt out because I was
Mhm.
just like up for hours, like editing videos and like every single day. It was crazy, and then yeah, so I think like that TV moment was just insane. Like I was like, what is going on? And then I had like lots of like influencer like products and lots of people reaching out to me to do all these things, and I was like, yep, I'll have some free stuff.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
great, but it was also like getting to my head a bit.
of course. And why wouldn't it? Because you should celebrate your successes. And I remember someone saying to me once, oh, influencers, they're not, this is not real. So I said, no one said that about the Olsen twins when they were like 4 years old or 3 years old and on TV,
Yeah.
or these young celebrity. What's the difference? There is no difference.
Yeah,
However, that said, from what um, I'm getting from this is you were, and I don't know how you could be, but you clearly were completely unprepared for what was about to come. So
absolutely.
you went from having people who loved the way you did their hair, starting to do Instagram, then TikTok, 25K, starting to struggle to be able to book people in, and I know what it's like to do new people all the time. That's not easy.
No,
One of the
no.
things that's very, very difficult. Doing 10 people that are return clients is one thing, but doing 10 brand new people in one day is very, very difficult. So
Yeah,
for you even to be able to do that is a testament and a compliment to your skill set.
thank you.
But then you mentioned the difficulty with actually trying to convert that, I think you call it, to return business to get these people coming back. Would you put that down to just, and I don't take this the wrong way, but just a lack of experience and not thinking that these people wanted to be rebooked? Or was it just because you just booked so many new people in that, or was it the people who you were doing didn't ask to rebook, or you were just prioritizing new clients and then it didn't leave any space for the people who you'd already previously done?
I think I would say a lack of experience. And I think for in my head, I'm like, because lots of my clients were getting like really low maintenance colors, so they didn't, and they were people
That's
that don't
interesting.
get their hair done all the time anyways. So it wasn't a huge deal to me that they weren't rebooking. Um,
Okay.
so
What would you describe as a low maintenance color? You're talking like
like
lived in color,
balayage.
highlight. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So like people that had virgin hair, people that had never been to a hair salon before, that
Okay.
came and got a balayage. Um, so I would say yeah, I would say lack of experience, and I would also say I definitely would prioritize doing like big transformations, balayages, like huge color works. Like it was that was
Is
like
that
my
because
main.
it was a higher service item in terms
Um,
of revenue?
it was actually because I enjoyed doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. But I didn't have my bread and butter clients, so
Hmm.
it was all I was doing was like transformations, and I was so tired because you know how much brain power that takes. Like
Hmm.
it's exhausting. Yeah,
It's huge.
yeah,
So, um, you're obviously doing okay for yourself, and I don't expect you to talk about money because I think that's just in poor taste. But clearly, you're very busy. So all of a sudden, you went from being a new mum, being told that you're now going to have to rent a chair. There's obviously a financial commitment with that. The digital medium allowed you to build a clientele to be able to meet that financial um, um, demand, and you've started to generate a good regular income, even if it's just new clients.
yes.
At what point? At what point did it dawn on you that there was going to be some point where you were going to have to try and get these people to walk back, or you realize, oh, hang on a minute, um, I'm not getting these people back in. When did that dawn on you, and what was the like the realization of that and the reality?
Yeah. It had always been in the back of my mind. Um, but I think it was when I had like so I had like a wait I've got like a wait list of clients. Um, and I would see my clients go on the wait list, like clients that I'd already done. And then I would email them and be like, hey, like I've seen that you're on my wait list. I've just had a opening up. And then they'd be like, sorry, like I went somewhere else because it was too late. And that was happening quite a lot. And I would often say to my clients when they would come in, like, if you want to, when you want to rebook, or like if you want, because a lot of them like are like those ones that don't get them don't get their hair done that much. Well, this was what was happening last year. So a lot of them, I'd be like, if you need to rebook, literally just message me, just text me, you've got my number, email me, whatever, and I will get you in. But I think they would probably forget or think maybe that I don't know, I was too busy or something. So it kind of got to that point where I was like, okay, like all my clients are going to other people, so they're going to me once and then they're not going to me again, and I was like, that's not good.
Mm, that's not. That's not. So it's obviously been like a very, very sharp rise in terms of popularity and interest that the digital platforms have given you. Did you see a peak and then a drop off at any point?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually last year my Instagram got hacked. So
How did
this
that happen?
was
And this goes back to
um
what I said at the beginning of this intro, in my intro, is that there are so, okay, someone can probably hack into our salon computers and delete our database, but is that going to have the same effect as when your Instagram gets hacked? That almost happened to me once, and I can tell you, at that point, I realized what financially I stood to lose. And I had to
yeah,
like do this picture and send it to Instagram with like my license and a code that they sent me and whatever for
yeah,
them to give my account back. But when
yeah,
someone tried to hack mine, it was at like 51K. And I
yeah,
was just like, full heart attack. So I've been there, babe. I can fully relate to that.
yeah.
What happened?
Yeah, well,
Tell us what
I
happened.
the so I clicked on a link, I think, that someone sent me. Silly, ridiculous. And then I think so I think I got hacked in the morning, like just before work. And it was happening during work, and I wasn't on my phone because I was with my clients, and I was so busy that day. And by the end of the day, when I was trying to get it back, because all my family was like trying to get it back for me, but Instagram Meta was just not working with me. So by the end of the day, it was like gone, and they had like,
Fuck.
yeah, it was so bad, and I had like
How big was it at this point?
I had 21,000 on Instagram. So yeah,
But your
so
TikTok was good, right?
yeah, my TikTok was fine. So
Okay.
that was, yeah,
And
I
how many
didn't
was on TikTok at this point?
like I think 33,000.
Yeah. And just to give people some context, where Jazzy lives, um, in a marketplace the size of New Zealand, that would be equivalent of probably having around 250, 300K on Instagram in Sydney and around about, three upwards of 500,000 on TikTok. So it's obviously all relative to where you live and the geographical um, algorithm that actually allows you to build an audience. Because, if you're in America, would be the reach is huge, it's amplified. You'd probably have three times that. So that's a huge, huge database in a small country like New Zealand.
Yeah,
So what did
absolutely.
you do after that?
Yeah, so I
Because
made
I
a new
noticed that your account's got 3,500 now. So how long
yes.
ago did that hack take place? And
So
is that
that
account
happened.
still active?
No, the account got what's it,
They took it
cancelled?
down.
What?
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, they took it down. So that happened in November last year.
Okay. Well, so that's still pretty fresh.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what did you do? Was TikTok or Instagram the primary driver of bookings?
I would
Like
say probably.
how were
I
people
would say
booking
they
with
were
you? Did you have a
equal.
phone number there or
Nah, so I have the same. I've got a link in my bio, and it's the same link on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook.
okay.
It's all the
Okay.
same. So
Yeah.
I would say it was about equal, but because it happened on my Instagram, Instagram for me was easier because I felt like to message people, because on TikTok I just had like hundreds of messages. So I was like, this is just
Yeah.
overwhelming. So I never replied on TikTok, only on Instagram. Um, so when that happened on Instagram, I was like, okay, I'm going to take a step back. And it literally happened just the week before I went away on holiday. So I was like, I'm
Wow.
going to take a step back. I'm going to go on holiday, think about what I'm going to do, and come back, and I don't know. So then I go on holiday, and I'm like, this is amazing, because I had no obligation to post. Like, I was just relaxing, and it was incredible. Come back, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna start posting again. So, um, I decided to. I made a couple of videos, and I was honestly like, I honestly just can't be bothered right now.
You've
Like
been burnt
this,
out already?
yeah. I was like, honestly, like I don't even want to do this right now. I'll do it in the new year. And then the new year comes around, and I'm like, maybe I'll do it next week. And I just kept putting it off. But there was something inside of me that was like, you don't don't post right now. Like it's not the right time. Um, yeah, I just there was and then obviously gonna talk about that, but
Yeah, we'll get
I
into that in
felt
a minute.
like there was lots of big emotions happening inside of me that I was like, I don't know what is going on, but I can't post right now.
So, what was the financial fallout after that hack? Did you just like, so that happens in November? You went away on holidays. When did you come back from holidays?
Oh yeah, I came back still in November.
Okay.
I
So then
made a
you,
new Instagram, and
yep.
I did like a few videos, and it kind of grew again.
Okay. So it didn't
But
affect your bookings. You already had people booked in.
yeah, I it actually hasn't it. Well, I'm not booked up 4 months in advance anymore. Um, but I'm probably like a few weeks in advance.
Okay.
So in terms of like, so I haven't posted a video in like a long time, probably like 6 months,
I noticed.
and but I haven't needed to. Like I'm still quite busy.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's really good. I'm glad you didn't suffer any major financial setback because that's worse. So what I would like you to share with everyone who's listening to this now, and thank you so much for being so honest up to this point, because I know that sometimes this is hard to talk about, especially when you've lived it like you have. But you were one of the mouths I saw open when I said something like, "I'm sorry, guys, my presentation, and I know you've paid money to come to this social media class, but I'm not here to sell you a slimming tea. I'm not here to tell you social media can fix your problems. I'm actually here to tell you that social media could actually be a part of the problem." And you were just like, what
really.
the? You were, I saw you. And I saw Michael Beale at the back. He was like, amen to this. You know what I mean? Because I think that we need to acknowledge the fact that this is not something, like I said to you, I realized very quickly that this digital strategy, unless you are only responsible for yourself, you have nothing else going on in the world, you actually don't have a 9 to 5, so you might be an influencer where you're not required to be in an environment to provide the service that people have come to you for based on your digital media. This is not sustainable. And I realized, and I said in my presentation, I pulled the brake on. And, my trajectory for social media, as I shared with you guys, and I'm not going to share that publicly, that was private. I told you how my income, what it was and what it is today. And I know that that's absolutely the case, because these digital strategies long term are not sustainable. So I want you to, if you can remember what you said to me before we started shooting content and we got into that part of the session,
Yeah,
I want you to share with me what you said to me if you're happy to do that, because I think it's really profound. Do you remember what you
yeah.
said?
I think so.
Something to the
I
effect
think
of,
I
I
remember
thought I was
I
coming here to learn how to take new
yes.
videos to reinvigorate, something like that. Yeah.
I remember like after you finished talking, I was sitting there and I was like trying to process everything, and I just remember like being. I remember I was just so appreciative of how vulnerable that you were and like raw and honest that you were about this,
Thank
um,
you.
because I I've never heard anyone talk about it like this. So I think that yeah, I really appreciate that you have even like having me on right now. I really appreciate it. Like me, are you having me like to so I can share my story, because I honestly like I came to this. So I remember even I bumped into one of my family members on the week before the course, and she was like, I miss seeing you on TikTok. Like, I miss your videos. And then she's like, when are you going to start posting? And I was like, well, I'm going to a social media course on Monday, so I'll probably start posting again next week because I'm going to get inspired when I go.
Oops.
So, like I said, like, I expected to come inspired, ready to make new content, with new ideas and stuff like that. Um, and it was so funny because by the end of it, I was like, oh, like, maybe not.
Well, I hope you're like, that's it, I'm never doing digital again. But what I hoped to provoke in people was for them to question their digital direction and their
Yeah.
social strategy and the
Yeah.
impacts that it has on their health, their
Yes.
incomes and their livelihood and their
Yeah.
work-life balance,
Yeah.
their family time and all those things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, yeah, and because it did play a huge part in my family time. Like, I was like not spending time with my family because I was making videos and I cared more about that than this. Um, but I think what was really cool about talking to you guys is like doing like content days, because I had already been thinking about doing something like this and having like
Great.
specific clients and things that I do on particular content days, so it's not affecting the way that I am in the salon. Um,
Great.
because I definitely, because even like before I worked for myself, when I was working for the previous salon where I finished my apprenticeship, my I worked there for about 8 years, and it was often like the biggest thing that me personally that I had to work on. It wasn't my skills as a hairdresser, but it was my service. So like, me personally, like, that's something that I always need to be aware of, is that I don't lack in my service. um and like, I think because I'm quite a laid back person. So when I would get really comfortable with my clients, I think I got too comfortable.
Hmm. We all do
um,
that. We
yeah.
all do that.
So
Forget to get them a coffee and,
yes,
forget to, get a
yeah,
magazine. It's normal. It's normal.
yes, exactly.
But
So that, I think, because that was already something that I was not like strong in when this whole digital thing started coming. I started lacking in my service for my clients. So, um, like, I had like some feedback from people, and they were saying that like they felt like if I would ask for a video, and if they said no, that they felt like I wasn't, that I'd just ignore them the whole time. And I was like, what the heck? Like, I would never do that. But I'm thinking about it. I'm like, but did I do that? Do you know what I mean? It really just started to affect the way that I was in the salon.
it could be a subconscious thing. It's something that, when and I see it, and again, back to what I said earlier about being a digital boomer, I stepped back and thought, hang on, are we really forgetting why people are in our chair? They're coming to escape the chaos. And in the last, you know, 6 years, the world's been through a bucket load of stuff. And
Yeah,
people were seeking our environments to escape from the chaos that was going on in the world. And I think they always have.
yeah,
The data that the big cosmetic companies do clearly shows that in tough times, females particularly seek um like retreat in beauty spas, in
mm,
hairdressing salons, where they just want to be pampered so they can
yeah,
forget about what's going on. And I think
yeah,
that the digital thing for me personally, it
yeah,
absolutely did make me do that. I think I shared with you, Jazzy, that I was in between every client, I was editing videos. So
yeah,
like I'd have someone doing my shampoo, and then I thought I was just there 5 minutes. 20 minutes goes like that, and I'm running behind all day because I didn't want to have to come home when at that point, because I started YouTube back in 2010, sorry, 2012.
mm, mm,
My daughter was only 3 years old, 4 years old back then. And I didn't
Mm.
want to be doing that at home. So I was trying to do it in a salon, and it was really affecting the service part. And it was something at my brand that I worked at first, and I bought shares in, and then bought the whole lot.
Mm.
That was
Mm.
what they were known for, is premier service. In a little
Mm.
town like ours in 1991, when this salon that I now own first started, they
Mm.
actually were the first salon to serve espresso coffee and champagne. So our
Wow.
whole business, like that was in 1991, we had an
Yeah.
espresso machine like a cafe in the salon. Like the
Wow.
person I bought the salon off, he was visionary when it came to service, and it's something he drummed into me. Adam, the thing that comes first is the service.
Wow.
He used to say the best way you can judge the ability of a hairdresser is by how long it takes to get an appointment with them. It's not the people with the best skills per se. Yes,
Yeah.
you have to be able to do great hair, but it's the
Yeah.
people that just look after people. And I went
Mm.
away from that. And that's what I said
That's
to
so
Jordan
good.
when we went away. I said, that girl Jazzy has taught me something that I forgot. And that was that my whole foundation of becoming a hairdresser was predicated on being in a service industry where I loved serving
Mm.
people. We used
Mm.
to have bragging rights in the salon on who could get someone's eyes to roll back into their head when you gave them a massage. We used to actually brag about it. There was a
Yeah.
guy I worked with, Joshua. He and I would always be like, "Yeah, I got another one," like just see him like drifting off. And
Yeah.
all these distractions that were coming in were
Mm.
were just starting to really take away from that. And it got to the point, and I pulled the handbrake on. I said, enough is enough, because we are going to destroy our business if we don't
Mm.
rebalance this digital strategy.
Yeah.
And just to build some context on what you
Yeah.
said at the beginning, one of the things that I delivered at my social media workshop in Wellington was to
Yeah.
try and combine doing staff education and creating content. Not only do you get to actually take younger stylists through training, whether it just be styling or whether it be a haircut, whatever, yeah, then have the opportunity at the end to actually take the content and take it well, so that our social media, as you've pointed out, is a catalog of the work that we do, and it's a broad spectrum. It's not just one thing, we just do this, because this notion of having a dream client that just looks one way, that
Mm.
is one age demographic, you've already said they don't come back often enough, and that's going to hurt our
Yeah.
hip pockets as well.
Yeah.
But what you said really, it actually inspired me to come back. And I said to Jordan, and I'm going to have her on some of these podcasts so we can have like more than just two people.
Awesome.
Um, you are the reason why I've decided to do this, because I know that if it wasn't just you in that class, but it was you within your region had a far bigger influence and a far better social and digital resource than I ever had. Because my resource started by sharing my skills online, because I believed that to have real influence meant that I should always openly share my skills without any expectation.
Mm.
However, that changed, as I said in my presentation, when
Yeah.
Google acquired YouTube and prioritized videos in the search results. Then I
Yes.
started having clients come in. But before then, it was never a strategy. Whereas
Yeah.
you guys did it as a strategy, and very successfully, I might add. Like if you had that many people booked out that far ahead, like clearly that works. But I
Yeah.
think your story for me is one that we really need to start educating people, that if you're going to go on this digital strategy like Jazzy did, learn from her um, innocence. And I want to say
Mm.
naive, but learn from her
Yeah.
innocence and her juvenile approach to it, that I didn't think of prioritizing rebookings before just taking all these new people in,
Yeah.
because that's
Yeah.
really only where it went wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So moving forward,
Yes.
um, what do you plan on doing with your social mediums, your
Yes.
Instagram and your TikTok? Are you going to continue to create content to drive business to you? Has your hack, and it's something that we spoke about, changing of the algorithm,
Mm.
um, the fact that some countries are now banning TikTok. So I don't know if that's happening in New Zealand, but people under the age of 18 will no longer be able to use TikTok unless I'm sure they're going to get around it. I said this to my wife.
Yes.
This is a solution looking for a problem.
Yeah.
They're just going to get their parents to set up their accounts. So,
Yeah.
because I don't want people to be financially disadvantaged or impacted by these changes. I think it's really scary, but it's all about the strategy and planning for it, making sure that we have these conversations, put them out
Yeah.
there so people go, oh shit, I actually never thought of that. I need to take precautions to make sure that I have a two-step authentication on my Instagram. So even if I click on a link, unless they got my
Yes.
mobile phone number, they can't do
Yes.
this. Yep.
Yes.
If I'm going to
Yeah.
get if I'm going to go on a digital strategy and I'm starting to get traction, prioritize rebookings over new clients. Because one of the things I say,
Yes.
you don't have to worry about looking for new clients if you look after the ones you have and you rebook them.
Yeah.
I know that's a bit old school analog, but it's true, right?
Yes.
So that said, moving forward, what are you going to be
Yeah.
doing differently?
Yes. So I am going to put up lots of boundaries, for myself, in the salon, at home, in terms of my social media. So, like I said before, I was working hours a day making videos, trying to think of what I'm going to post next, um, putting like the customer service um, quality went down, so it affected me in the salon.
So
So I'm going
prioritizing
to
customer
do,
service.
yes. So I'm
Can
going
we call that
to,
the analog? Can you say, I'm
yes,
going to prioritize the analog
I'm going to
for me?
prioritize the analog. I'm going to prioritize the analog. So I'm going to look after my clients that are in the chair and not worry about social media while they're in the chair, which is what I had
Amen.
actually been
Amen.
focusing. Was what I've been focusing on this year.
So
And
good.
then moving forward, because like what you actually talked about in your course, is that you can't. Um, what's important is you do need to have a like you do need to be digitally on
Of
social
course.
media. Um, and
That is not disputed.
yeah, yes. So um, I will still be making videos, but I'm going to, like what I said, I'm going to set boundaries. I'm going to do content days with models, um, not like models, but like people that, you know,
Volunteers,
yeah,
volunteers, yep.
volunteers.
I call them victims. On YouTube I
Yes,
go, I'm advertising
victims,
for some victims.
victims. Yeah. Um, and yeah, I'm just gonna keep trying to be the best hairdresser that I can be in the salon and look after that person that is in my chair. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. I think that that is a great way to end this. Um, those of you who are listening to this podcast, or watching this podcast, I want you to go and follow Jasmine Lupo, Jazzy Lupo, at Jazzy Lupo on Instagram. Um, and if you do so, I'm sure she'll give you a follow back. It is so important that we celebrate this conversation and we
Right.
celebrate the fact that Jazzy's been able to come on here and be so honest with us and show us that you are going down a very, very slippery slope without taking precautions. And I'm so, so grateful that you've shared it with us. And I'm so happy for you that you actually haven't suffered any serious financial hardship from this journey and that you're able to move on from it, because I know that there are people out there that have destroyed their businesses to the point that they've
Mm,
closed them down. I know people who travel around the world promoting a digital strategy who have actually,
mm,
in recent times, had to close their businesses because once you fall down that slope, it's very,
yeah.
very hard to go back. And I myself
True.
feel fortunate that I was able to see it when I did, because I think I would have
Yeah.
been one of those people. I would have
Yeah.
destroyed my business. Um,
Yes.
so also, just one last thing before we go. I know we're still going to wrap it up.
Yeah.
If you could, if you could change one thing about, just to be able to define this whole conversation, if you could go back and change one thing about your digital journey, what would that be? And I'm not saying you have any regrets, but it's like, you know what? If just at that one moment, had I have, I wonder,
Yeah. Um, what would I have changed?
because I know for me, I wouldn't have changed any of it. You know why?
Yeah,
Because
that's what I'm thinking.
I got out of it. Yeah, that's fine. You could say that because I got out of it. And I'm a big person that you don't learn very much when you win all the time. And the reason why I've been able to, and I believe that it is destiny that I've been able to come to this point and have this
Mm,
conversation, just open this conversation with other people, is because you learn from your losses. You grow from the losses, and I don't see them as a negative thing. It's like
yeah,
as a growth thing. So, what would you
yeah.
say? Okay, then, what is the biggest growth or the biggest takeaway from this journey that you on moving forward in the next phase of Jazzy Lupo 2.0 with a new outlook on embracing digital and a new digital strategy? What is the one recalibration that you've made that you think will be the biggest difference?
Yes, I think what is going to help me in the future for my business and what you've just said would be to always be like self-aware of what I am doing. Like during that season I was not self-aware, I wasn't reflecting,
Amazing. That's
I
amazing.
didn't have any accountability. And then I got a I had lots of all that happen afterwards. So um just continually checking myself. And also I have like um a few people in my life that I'm like, okay, like what's going on, or like what's up, like this is something,
Appoint an adjudicator that could say,
yes,
hey,
exactly.
Adam, that was my wife. My wife did that for me. Because I
um
think it's also something you said is you can't keep this thing going. Like it's a big wheel to keep turning all the time. It's a
yeah,
huge weight of pressure on people's shoulders.
yeah, yeah. I also just want to say, like, again, like a huge thank you to you for being really vulnerable and open at the course, because like you sharing your journey and what you've been through, it helped me process what I had been feeling without realizing that I had been feeling that. And then also giving me this opportunity to share my story with other people, and I hope that like in the future that this will impact other hairdressers, and even like other industries to, I don't know, be more self-aware and aware of what's happening in this world digitally. Yeah,
That's what I said to Jordan. I said,
yeah.
if that girl is feeling what I felt, I know that there's so many more. So when I get
Mm,
back to Australia, I'm going to contact her. We're doing this and we've done it. And thank you so much for being here.
thank you so much, it's been
If
awesome,
you
thank you.
Awesome. Hey guys, if you love this conversation and you'd like to hear more conversations and you want to see more episodes of Chatting with Ciaccia, please make sure you like, subscribe, and share this. The further we reach, the more people we can engage and the better the conversations we have. And that's how we learn and grow as an industry.
Yes,
Thanks so much, and we'll see you all next time. Thanks, Jazzy.
bye.
Amazing conversation with Jazzy. Very insightful one. If you guys like this conversation, please make sure you share this with someone that you think might benefit. I think it's really important as an industry we raise this awareness. There are a lot of people out there feeling a lot of pressure and having their entire life consumed by trying to maintain this digital beast that we've created for ourselves, or maybe not. I could be wrong, and that's why I want to have these conversations because I don't claim to be right. This is just about me opening the door to some conversations because if Jazzy feels that way as I did, I'm sure there's plenty more. Thanks so much, guys. Until next time, take care.